Okay, so for today, we have, okay, Globex low has obviously moved down into yesterday's low. If we look at the bigger picture, it's pretty clear to me that the market, first of all, the market is simply consolidating this larger move from above. It's not going down and it's not going up. Okay, I will take a long first time into this zone and first time into this zone. Actually, all three of these are all valid longs for me. Okay, so 1919.50 to 1917.50, 1914 and 3/4 to 1912 and 3/4, and 1910.50 to 1908.50. I'll be shocked if we get below that, but we will make adjustments as necessary. So what's the concern at this point that we're actually getting a gap down, right? We have we have the Fed meeting tomorrow. They'll release the Fed minutes at 1 o'clock Central Time. We have a little bit of econ. Okay, Mari, I'll keep that. I'll keep that in account. I'll wait. I'll wait to see and hear what everyone else has to say about it. With regards to the scalps, I need to know just generally, yes, the scalps hear you when I call them out, or no, they're causing you to have confusion one way or the other. Everyone who's in the room, there's 20 people in the room, so kind of just give me a yay or a nay, and we'll go from there. But I do not want the only reason I'm doing this. Okay, I do not need to do this for a living. I'm doing it because I want to help people get profitable. So if I'm calling something out or I'm mentioning something that's causing confusion or is causing people to lose focus on what their primary job is, then I'm not serving as far as I'm concerned, what my purpose is here. Okay, so and frankly, if people were not, if this was not constructive, I'd simply rather not do it because I put a lot of work into it, and the reward is seeing people actually make money. So let me know. Let me finish my thought process here before I get all ADD on everybody. Okay, so these areas here, I will take along. We complete a retest of last week's low right here at 1917.50. Okay, and I would expect responsive buyers the first time in there. We have not had extended ranges. We had one day with an extended range. So what would be the concern in this particular area? Well, the concern would be if we have open drive lower. What is open drive lower? Well, first of all, there's two types of open drives, right? We can have one like yesterday where it looked like an open drive, but it wasn't. Strong open drives are generally accompanied by a gap up or a gap down. Okay, so we're getting the gap down. So what will it look like? 1, 2, 3 bars. The first bar, the first 5-minute bar, being the swing high, right? Counter rotations being very small. The attempt at gap fill, and particularly when half gap is not met, okay, is a particularly strong sign of weakness. And guys, there's been a distinction when everyone was asking yesterday about the open drive. I wasn't worried about the open drive higher yesterday simply because we simply did not have a gap. Now, the other way that a gap can work, right, is we can have a gap down and open drive higher from a significant gap down, usually accompanied by a negative 1,000 tick or greater, okay, or we can gap up and blow off and end up with an open drive lower. Over the past couple of months, okay, most of the open drive lowers have had significant counter rallies in the first hour and then roll to the downside. Usually it's been about between 9:30 and 10 a.m. that we've rolled to the downside. So even if we get an open drive lower, I'll be very patient, right? And I'll wait for a good trade rotation back up to take the trade to the downside, right? So trap locations are, of course, at Globex low. Prior day's low, what would that require? That we trade below, then we trade back above. There's two traps, series of traps, I'll call them. I've been very reluctant to take the long side trap because my figuring was that we were going to come down on a larger picture and we're going to retrace to that 50 back, which would put us between here and here, okay, which would be 50 to 62 back from the original swing low. And when I get to a larger picture, I'll show you all that. Okay, so assuming that we don't have the open drive lower and we do have econ at, let's see real quick, Tuesday, we have 7:30, 8:30, and we have no econ past 7:30 a.m. today. If I got the date right, I do. It's Tuesday. and we have nothing past 8:30 a.m. So obviously the other issue that will come up there will be going into balance after the first hour, which is exactly what I described yesterday. You see we got to 9:30 and we started balancing. New lows got bought, right? We never got to a new high. And then even you can see right in here, right? We set a slightly new low here and we get the reversal in the last hour. The last hour has also been consistent over the last, this is the sixth day in a row, I believe, where we've got responsive buying in the last 30 to 60 minutes of the day. Okay, I would not want to be short going into the close. It's not a trade I'm taking. I obviously don't initiate in the last hour. However, it's there, right? There's lots of reasons, by the way. People ask why I don't trade in the last hour. I usually start my day around 5:30, so that means by the time I get to 2 in the afternoon, I'm tired. I can only make so many good decisions, and I don't need to make that many good decisions in a row, right? When you get mentally tired, I'll tell you what gets affected actually is not your ability to enter or exit a trade well. It's your ability to control emotions when your stops get hit, and that is extremely key. People who spin out of control. Now, if you're a master of emotion and you don't have that problem, maybe that's a different story, but I haven't had one guy I've coached who's made their money in the last hour, period. And I'm talking going all the way back to over the last 20 years. I don't have one trader who's made his entire living by showing up at 2 in the afternoon and leaving at 3 o'clock. Now, I've seen a ton of people, not a ton of guys, a handful of guys get really wealthy trading 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Okay, and then I've seen a couple currency guys trading from London Open until London close. Okay, but I haven't seen anyone who regularly trades the afternoon get rich. So that kind of concludes it for me in a pretty easy manner, right? So what are we looking for on the other side of this coin? If we hold Globex low and we trap, right, obviously we have an open gap sitting right here that the market's been wanting to try to nail. And we have another gap sitting right here. Markets like to close gaps, okay? We barely missed it overnight. The reason I'm not going to create this as a zone right here is because my figuring is that they would push through here and close this gap even though they didn't do it overnight, right? This area as well, this whole area in here, is a 50 to 62 retrace from swing high to swing low. So I expect responsive sellers in here. This is the same thing I was looking for yesterday. And part of the problem that we're having with the market right now is summertime. If we had more participation, we would have pushed up into these areas yesterday where we had resistance zones. And if you look relative to where we're trading, right, this is 1936. We've now traded overnight from 1935 all the way down to 1925. We've had a 10-point rotation. We're not getting these trades because the market is either lack of participants or hungover, whatever you want to call it. We're just not getting the stretches up into the zone. Show you what I'm talking about, right? This is yesterday's zone right here. Okay, the zone yesterday was 1934 3/4 to 1936.25. We went to 1935 overnight. This should have occurred right here yesterday. We just don't have enough participants pushing this thing around. Everyone's kind of lazy. So the auction completed. We got up exactly where we were supposed to yesterday, and we've now pushed down, right, to this 1925 level. That's a 10-point rotation. So what that tells me is I need to be more patient and wait for my trade location rather than getting frustrated by this choppy trade, okay? So I want to be clear, even though I've said I'm not taking the trap trade, I want to be clear, I am taking the zone trades still. Their numbers are right in line with what they should be. I don't have any issue with that whatsoever, okay? Above, let's talk about that for a moment. And I just need to check the CL market really quick, guys, here. And that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. Okay, give me just a second. Globex high, Friday's high. Okay, good enough. Let's see if that thing can get a little bit of legs underneath it there. Okay, so, okay, above. I will take a, depending on the rotation, but assuming we're opening where we are right now, 1926, I'm looking to take a trade. Actually, so this creates a little bit of a conundrum, and I could change this zone. So I have two choices here, right? So let's go look at this really carefully. We have an open gap sitting here at 1936. Globex high, Monday's high. So, okay, easy enough. Get rid of the 1931 3/4. Okay. And that leaves us 1934. Was that 3350? So 1933.50. Wow, that's a big zone. 3350, 3450, 35. Okay, so the way I want to handle that leaves me in a position I don't like. Okay, so the way I would normally want to handle this is I'd want to see it come up, and if we can't push into this open gap, see if we trap below, right, to set up a trap trade. But trap trades on ES have been failing. So what I really want to do is if we move into this 1936, 1938 area, I will take a short from here, and I'm basically going to ignore the move into Globex high, and I'm going to ignore the move into Monday's high. The problem with that is if we tested this overnight, which we did, I can move. Okay, let me see where that gap is again. Hold on a second here. So the gap is here, Globex high. That's fine. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to okay, we're going to move this to 1935. Okay, and we're going to move this down to 1937. Okay, that lets us still capture okay, so that lets us still capture the open gap. It lets us capture Globex high, which I want to make sure I still have correct and not into pulling an ADD moment here. Okay, 1935. And the prior high. Now, the truth of the matter is the zone's actually from 1933.50 up to 1937. Okay, so what I'll look for in here is tick divergence, but I'm really looking to close this gap and push lower. Important. Okay, if we get above 1937 and a half, let's call it, right? All of this from essentially here up to here, okay, poorly auctioned. We can simply zip straight through this up to 1942 3/4. Be aware of that, all right? So that doesn't mean don't take the trade here. What should happen is we get up into this location and we get a rotation lower for 2 points. Am I certain that it'll happen? No, but I will count this as a zone. The 25-minute rule will be in effect. As a matter of fact, because of that open gap, I will give this, I would like to see my rotation within 15 minutes. And if not, I'll be scratching the trade and seeing if I can't get trade location up here. Then obviously we have the new highs. So if we look from where we're trading right now, 1926, if we open at this 1926 level, that'll essentially be a 10-point rotation higher. Okay. So let's see if I can, let's see, areas higher. Okay, so I'll take a short here. I'll take a short here. And I doubt that I simply, man, this will set up for such a beautiful trap trade, but they simply haven't been working. So I'm going to wave this off here. Gosh, I really would like to treat this as a whole zone. Let me think this through for a couple more minutes. I may just simply cut size and treat the whole thing as a zone. I may just simply cut my trade size in half at this location. right? So that means if you're a small trader, right, you're forced back here. But if you're in my position, since I don't want to miss what I think will be a great area for a roll to the possible roll to the downside, right? I will probably cut my trade size in half, but let me think this through for a minute. This is going to be a little bit tricky in this area, but I will not take, okay, I want to be clear. If we come up like this, right, and we trap below, and it doesn't, whatever I decide, and I'll decide before the open, right? If this doesn't end up being a zone trade, I will not take a trap. I will not position myself outside of this zone today. The traps is simply trap sides to the downside on ES simply haven't been giving us the rotation. Also on ES, importantly, I lowered the rotation size where I'm taking profits from 8 ticks to 6 ticks. Why? We've gone through 2 weeks and we've missed multiple exits by 1 tick or 2 ticks. Okay, so again, I'm lowering from 8 to 6. That also coincides with how low the rotations and counter rotations have been. Okay, so let's take a quick big picture look really fast so everyone understands where we are on this. $5,000 tick chart will come up in just a second. Okay. We had a little bit of a downtrend starting. That has technically been broken. Not this one, but this one has. Okay. Technically been broken. We have another point of resistance right here. You'll notice we came right up to that just above it and failed back below. So if this is going to be the channel right now, this channel looks something like this. And I am going to go with this as the channel for right now. Okay, that's what I have as a channel right now. And for now, we're holding that. And then also you need to be aware, obviously, we are holding okay, so obviously this is dissecting that channel, and we're going to do one or two things. We're either going to go, so we have one or two ways of handling that. We're either, right now we're still opening at 1926.50, right at the bottom part of this trend, right? If we break this, it would bring us down to test the very bottom of last week's, of this swing low from last week, right? And then obviously if we get below here, we have new areas below, and it's not uncommon for us to break and then come back in, recapture, and trade to the other side of the channel. I don't know which one's going to happen. I'll call it as I see it. It's hard to call for downside, right, when we haven't been getting any moves. Obviously, we're going to get a very tiny 3-point gap down is what it appears at this point. Okay, that's not a lot. I still would suspect that we get, so if you look at this area, right, we broke below, we trapped above. We've now tested 1, 2, so the question is on the third time, does this hold? And that's always a question mark for me. We'll just judge it off of price action. But the rotation size down into that zone will be from 26.50 down to 23.75. It's a small rotation. What are we looking for normally? 6-point rotations to help us out, right? And if we look at yesterday, if you followed that rule, right, you had a rotation in from let's call it 1924, right, up to 1929. If you pushed this and you used your 6-point rotation, you did not enter this 1927 3/4. If you were using 6 points, right, essentially you would have been looking for 1930, which would have meant the very back of the zone would have been your trade location. Okay, so we're in a bizarre market. It's summertime. It's slow. That's not always possible to get a 6-point rotation, but the 6-point rotations have been helping, right? And same thing with this rotation down, right? You'll notice we went from 33 to 23. We've been trading in almost perfect 10-point rotations. Not quite 10 at times, but 10-point rotations have really been pretty effective in terms of looking for trade locations. So again, I'll be looking for that today. And then the other part is the open drive higher, right? If we open and we just start driving higher, I don't imagine that's going to happen. My guess is we end up exactly with what we've had all week. Everyone's on hold for the Fed. We'll know quickly if that changes. I want to go to NQ real quick, and then I want to do something a little bit different. Okay. See if I missed something from someone. Okay. Okay, so far the overwhelming call is for the scalps to be called out. So fine, so be it. I will not be taking any trap trades to the short side on ES today unless I just see something overwhelming convincing me that it is time for me to change. So the first thing I want to show on this NQ, okay, we are in a bull market. This is as bullish as bull markets get, okay? We're just pretty much straight up. All we're doing here is we're working off this move sideways, okay? Markets have two ways of working off moves. They can correct or they can burn sideways before they get another move. We're burning sideways, going up. We're in the middle of a theta burn here. This is where they smoke all the option call sellers and call buyers and put buyers. They just get smoked. They're just taking premium out of this thing. Okay, that's all they're doing. Nothing more to that. And we've got to assume there'll be responsive buyers all the way through this process here, here. The only way we get into a hairy situation is if we get under 3,700, and 3,700 could open the door for 3,650, but first it'd have to get underneath this right here at 3,672 and a quarter. Okay, I want to do this quickly so as to be effective. Where is my 5-minute chart? There it is. Okay. For today, right now, I need to adjust Globex low here real quick. 37.6625. Okay, in my eyes, NQ has been relatively strong. Okay, so first thing is, there is no downside for ES or NQ unless we get below yesterday's low, number one. So I'm not thinking overly bearish. Secondly, the scalps and the traps on NQ have been working at Globex highs and Globex lows. The longs have been working better than the shorts, okay, but they've all been working pretty much, or at least they've been working within a sample size that's giving a sufficient win rate, right? So I will be looking for an NQ first time into prior day's low. Actually, in Globex low falls perfectly into a support area. So if we can get a test of Globex low, I'll take the long there. On the upside, let me make sure we haven't changed that at all. They're all still at 37.86. There is an open gap sitting right here at 37.98. Okay. The 15-point rotations have been working fairly beautifully on NQ. If we look, we essentially moved, since I'm running out of time for what I want to do here in a second, 37.60. Okay, up to 37. So this moved a little bit past 15. This was actually 15. Then we extended up just past 20 points. Okay, but then if you look, we rolled from 37.83 all the way down to 37.55. That's 30 points or two 15-point rotations, right? And then we rotated up from 37.55, 15 points gives us 70. And you can see we paused just in front of that 70, rolled a little bit past it. The point of looking at the rotation size is not so you go, oh, that's 15, I'm taking a trade. Market doesn't work that way. The point of the 15-point rotation is if I look at a trade here and I go, oh, we're bouncing, what I'm going to do is go, okay, we bounced at 55. I'm going to look at 70, and I'm going to go, what's at 70? Well, when I look at 70 yesterday, I see that we're in a terribly auctioned area, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to look up here. This is where my structure is, and I'm going to go, oh, so there's my trade location. But what that keeps me from doing is every 5 points on NQ, taking a counter trade, trying to find where the short side of the trade is. That's the same point of the 10-point rotation in ES, guys. Okay? So last thing, I usually only cover this with my coaching clients, so I will not do this very often. It's 8:23, so two things. I'm going to switch. I'm going to stop this meeting at 2 minutes before the open and start a new meeting. I'll give you all the room here in just a second. Everyone's welcome to join, but I'm not being able to get the market previews and post them to the blog, and I don't want to sit there and post everything that I'm trading in real time and just simply hand it out to the public. Was not my intention. The only way I have to do that effectively at this point until I figure out how to operate this editing software well is to stop the meeting and start a new meeting. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So let me do that really quick here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do that right now because what I want to go over, I do not want to put out publicly. So hold on one second here. Invite, copy to clipboard, close. Here's the new meeting, guys. 3766. Mari, isn't Globex slow at 3765.25, not 30? I show. Oh, you're correct. Thank you. Guys, correction before I switch. 3765.25 on Globex low. And I do have Globex high correct, I believe. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything else. Okay. Okay, and it seemed to be an overwhelming. And it seemed like there was overwhelming yays to the scalps. So again, focus on the when I'm calling the scalps, make sure that you're focusing on your trades. So that being said, here's the new meeting invite. Here's the invite for everybody. Okay, and I'll also post that to the private Twitter feed right now as well. Okay, there it is. I'm going to end this meeting and start the new meeting immediately. Hold on one second here.